Welcome back for yet another episode of People Are Terrible. I'm Jeremy, and joined as always with partner in crime and fellow conspiracy theorist enthusiast, Caleb Miles.
I hope if people have watched this, they know I hate conspiracy theories.
You're not necessarily a big fan.
No, I feel like 99% of the time it can be explained away with much more logical things than these craziness. I mean, I kind of go the other way where I'll be like, this person sounds like a conspiracy theorist to me.
It's interesting. I guess if we're talking toe the party lines, I think there's a lot of idea that more conservative people tend to lean into conspiracy theories a little bit more. But I'm here to tell you people, I love this shit. I fucking think it's fantastic.
I think it depends on what side of the aisle you sit on, because I feel like as someone who tends to be more conservative, we look at liberals as crazy conspiracy theorists. I think I think both sides see each other that way.
That's fair. Let us know down in the comment section, Ian, Elliot Carter, because you're the only person that watches our show week after week.
We have like 3 people. So
shout out to Ashley, Ian, and
Hacks or whatever the
Hacks
against Hacks. Actual name.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, what's up, you guys? Thank you so much for coming by. On this week's show, we are going to talk a little bit about the week's weird news headlines in our worldwide weird segment before we head on east on Interstate 10 to the Welcome to Florida discussion, where we talk about some of the week's Florida man headlines, and then each of us has brought a topic as we do. And for my topic this week, I want to talk about the death of Epstein and the circumstances surrounding it. Is it a suicide or is it something more nefarious? We are going to conclusively crack the code on this week's episode. Stick around for the truth that you will not find other places, or just our very, outside peripheral interpretation of all of these crazy facts that have come out surrounding it. And then Caleb, you have brought a topic this week as well.
Yeah, I brought the topic of, I'm going to pull up the actual name of the game, but it's when does iteration turn into ripping off because of Breath of the Wild and this game Genshin Impact, which people are calling a Breath of the Wild knockoff.
And I'm looking forward to talking about that. I think that it opens up the broader discussion about homage versus stealing, and at what point does something just become straight up theft. So we're going to get into all of that stuff. This week we've got some fun weird news headlines, and let's go ahead and kick off the worldwide weird. Tumblr was recently purchased by WordPress. Back in 2017, I want to say, I should probably pull up the article, but Yahoo purchased Tumblr for around $1.1 billion, and within just this couple of years, it was resold to the folks over at WordPress for a measly $3 million, which obviously $3 million, a lot of money, but when you're talking about assets of this kind and social media platforms, it is chump change. So
yeah, that's a joke.
So Tumblr, the one-time darling of social media, sold for a whopping $1.1 billion in 2013. On Monday, and perhaps the latest mark of its decline, the site was reportedly bought for just $3 million. Twitter didn't miss a beat, pointing out that Tumblr's reported sales price was less than that of a bluefin tuna. Wow, some specific bluefin tuna, I suppose. And also that BuzzFeed mentioned that you could buy 7 different condos in New York for the same price as Tumblr. So yeah, we're talking a very, very small amount of money. I think I can draw a line to the direct point when Tumblr lost all of its value, all of its equity. Caleb, you know where I'm going with this?
When it went super SJW? That's where I would say.
So what happened is Tumblr used to be popular for artists, popular for art, popular for musicians. A lot of more of the creatives leaned into Tumblr, and I really enjoyed it. But it was also a fantastic place to get pornography. I think a lot of users used it for porn. Oh man, it was like the best place for like good good porn, like not just like smutty stuff, but even like more like erotica, like any kind of porn you wanted, you could find it. Unfortunately, some people like kiddie porn. So that's something that was kind of starting to seep its way into the website. And once it was brought to the attention, once it started making headlines, Tumblr did what they probably shouldn't have done. They jumped the gun and they threw the baby out with the bathwater, and they said no more sexually explicit content, period. And boom, within just a couple of months, millions of users had migrated away from Tumblr, and its stock just completely plummeted. You hadn't heard about that?
No, my whole view of Tumblr is all the jokes that people make about it, about like, you know, the emo memes and all that, and
A
like
lot of
that's
that.
my own, yeah, like it's like the most pathetic people are on Tumblr is like kind of my whole view of it.
Yeah, there was a bit of that kind of, a lot of people say like a romanticization of mental illness and like
Hmm.
very emo content, like you said, where it was almost like hashtag depressed, hashtag anxiety, like all this
It would be
kind of
like a
stuff.
black background, or like black and white background with some quote about how alone you are, and
Yeah.
then like your preferred pronoun underneath it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I thought of Tumblr.
Yeah. And I feel like with the value of it being so low, the no shit, no brainer thing to do would be to say, and you know what? We're going to bring back porn. Because I literally believe this to be the fact, if they went back to the way things were with it just a couple years ago, Tumblr would be a freaking behemoth again. I mean, it wouldn't get back up to that $1.1 billion, but it would have to be worth more than 3 million. There was actually a moment in time when Pornhub was trying to acquire Tumblr, but for whatever reason, they didn't end up selling. They didn't end up closing the deal on it, which I think is good because, you know, Pornhub is its own thing. It's doing fine. You know what I mean? There's like YouPorn, Pornhub. I think those are the two that are both owned by the same company. And then Tumblr didn't need to be specifically porn, I guess is what I'm saying. But like even Twitter has pornography on it. I mean, it just depends on what you're into, what you use it for. But it seems like if they wanted to make the thing more lucrative, just by switching that one thing, it would gain a shitload of money. I don't know if it's principles that they're holding on to, or if they think that they can make it thrive laterally or parallel to WordPress. But for me, they're both blogging sites, so it's a little redundant.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I don't understand the whole reason for even purchasing this. I don't think they're going to have to revamp it. And I kind of agree with you. Just allow porn back on. If this was, which it sounds like, is the downfall of it, then use it for that.
And this is just from an outside looking in. I don't know the inner workings of it. I don't know the corporate policy or
It
structure
sounds
or
pretty
anything like
logical.
that. Yeah, it only makes sense to me. I don't see how, and if it ends up impacting it negatively, I mean, they're only out $3 million. Let's be honest. It's like the
Yeah.
worst thing that could happen is it dropped down to being worth $1 million, and I mean, it's not far off already. So I
$3
don't see the
million
point in
for a
not trying
company
it.
of this size is a joke. Like, I mean, for like WordPress, they don't care about 3 million. That's chump change.
Man, it's if I would have had the foresight to just go and talk to an investor, like, hey, like you can see right here, this is when it happened. Give me the money, and I will
Yeah.
make this $1 billion fucking company again.
We will change the name till Tumble Her, and it'll be strictly porn.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next topic. All right. So, a man with a TV for a head was driving around in a van in Virginia, dropping off CRT televisions on front porches with the screen facing the door. So people woke up in the morning to find these big, gigantic CRT TVs facing their front door. A lot of them had surveillance cameras, so they did what you would do. They review the footage on their video surveillance, and they found this like man in a jumpsuit with a TV for a head going and dropping these things off.
So, like, TV head, like, did he look like Do you know what FLCL is?
Yes,
The anime? Is that
exactly
what he
like
looked
that.
like?
Exactly
Okay.
like that. Not a cosplay of that character because I've seen those before, but same exact fucking deal, like a TV for a head. And
Okay.
I don't know why they did it. For those of you guys that are into retro gaming, you will know that CRTVs are almost completely obsolete unless you're a Smash player. Did you know about that, Caleb?
I know that CRTVs are, if you're a retro gamer, like Mario is better on a CRTV than it is on a new HD TV because people don't remember the pixels weren't as pixelated because the TV was blurrier. They did look more rounded.
Okay. I thought
Yeah.
it specifically had something to do with refresh rate, but I bet that plays into it as well.
Yeah. So with I know like old Nintendo games, Super Nintendo, they look better on CRTVs because of that. And they even on like the NES Mini, I think there's a filter to make it look closer to that.
Man, there is this. I was using the OpenEMU emulator there for a little while, and one of the preset filters that you could put over the images rounded out all of the pixels, so it made so many of those 16-bit video games just look so much smoother by just like
Yep.
creating diagonal lines on those exterior pixels. It was really, really fucking cool looking. But so I've got a buddy here in the area who hosts Super Smash Brother tournaments, and they're always looking for CRTVs. They take them for donations. They go out of their way to try to find them, but most people don't have any use for these things. So there's obviously not a lot of leads about who this person is. I don't know. Would you think that if they found out who it was, that the person should get in trouble for it?
I mean, what are you can give it littering? Like that's the only thing.
Trespassing?
Maybe trespassing, but no. I mean, it's just a stupid little prank for whatever reason. You know, I don't. I mean, if I saw it, I'd be like, "Ah, whatever, and I'd pick it up, and throw it in my trash.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then let's go ahead and put our conspiracy theory hats on early in this episode because what I found out, and obviously you can't take a stone and fucking, or take a dart and throw it at a map without hitting a blogger or a vlogger these days, but there is a YouTuber that lives in the area that did a story covering it, and the video says if we can get 10,000 likes, we'll do a follow-up video to this. Is it possible that this guy potentially was using it as like a clout booster?
With YouTube, anything is possible.
Yeah, yeah.
YouTubers do some weird shit.
So he just now bought a van that he's converting into one of those, like, I'm gonna live in this van after that one girl got super popular on it. So he bought a big conversion van and he's in the process of building it. Seems like you could definitely fit some TVs into a big ass van like that. Thing is, the same incident occurred like a year ago before the guy had the van. So this is the CRT TV thing has happened before, and part of me wonders, like, is it because they're difficult to get rid of? Is somebody just unloading all of their extra CRT TVs in a way that's funny?
Why would this person have that many CRT DVs?
That's a really good question, man.
I think it's more somebody being weird and thinking it's funny, and maybe watched a little too much Fooly Cooley and was like, "I'm gonna do it with a TV head."
Is that the anime Fooly
Yeah.
Cooley? Where yeah, people seem to be pretty into that. Side tangent. I was watching the Netflix anime special yesterday. There's like a 1 hour anime special. Did you see it?
Yes, it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's not well produced at all. A lot of the like directorial choices are ridiculous. The host it's not all that good.
It's all for their personal anime.
It is. That's what I said. It's like it is an ad.
Yep.
A gateway for total like noobs to get into that culture.
There's a great documentary on YouTube. It's Down the Rabbit Hole anime. It's 2 parts. It's like 40 minutes. And it goes into the history. It is phenomenal for anime. It's like, if a YouTuber can do this, you guys can do better. It was trying to be so edgy. Like the girl's like, it's fucking punk rock. And you're like, it's a bunch of nerds drawing cartoons.
Yeah.
Let's try not to make it edgy and weird. It's nerdy as shit.
Avi Shankar is just the worst.
God, he's just awful in every.
I'm from the fucking future. Get out of here, you schmuck.
Yeah, you listen to way too much Kanye, and he's one of those people. Those people who are like, I'm weird, I'm an alien. They're like, you're not actually weird. You're pretending to be weird because you want that to be your persona.
Yeah. It's a facade. And
it's all bullshit.
I've got this little white poodle, and people look at me and they're like, why do you have a white poodle? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what kind of dog would you expect me to have? Well, I don't know, like a black one with eyeliner and like a spiky collar. You fucking...
Oh, man.
He's all the thing.
He reminds me of every little, like, ICP fan in middle school.
He makes good shit, though. I'm not going to lie. Like, I like Castlevania, Dread, pretty much everything he messed with.
I hated Castlevania.
What? For real?
Yeah, I thought it was the worst anime. I couldn't even finish it. I was like, this is bad.
Damn, dude. But now I'm questioning my own taste.
Cannon Busters is coming out. I've been following that dude. I cannot remember his name. He's the American living in Japan. Cannon Busters just came out.
Uh-huh.
And I've been following him on Instagram forever. He used to just do art. And now he's been trying to do this Cannon Busters, like, crowdfunded forever. And apparently Netflix picked it up. So I'm very excited to see this because it's all in Japanese audio. Like, there is an English dub, but it actually was produced in Japan. He's over in Japan working on it. Like, I'm very excited to see what he does. He was the guy who was the black dude in the flannel, totally normal guy.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very excited. That anime just dropped, and I'm very excited about that.
We're about to do our own Weebaboo podcast.
I know, man. I can do it. I got anime tattoos. I'm pretty much a weeb.
No doubt. All right, well, what you got from CRT head TV people to anime within just one step? But let's go ahead and bounce over to something that I'm very disappointed that we have not talked about up to this point. We never even did a topic or a headline about the Storm Area 51 meme, and now it's just fucking normie central. Like, everybody's talked about it. And here we go. I got to jump on board because I don't know how we missed it. I think that you made, and it's fine. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm saying I think you made me feel uncomfortable about my love for aliens.
Well, I've tried to make you feel uncomfortable about animals, and that hasn't stopped you. So
it's just fair. That's a fair point. Yeah, so for those of you guys that have been living under a rock the past year or a couple months, there was a Storm Area 51, They Can't Stop Us All Facebook page that had been made. It was all tongue-in-cheek. 2 million people basically signed up that they were going to attend this event. There is no infrastructure in this town that everybody was talking about going to. No, there is no town, basically. But yet all these people were planning on going. At the last moment, I guess the creator of the fan page, and this is after it was pulled off of Facebook, decided that they were going to try to turn it into alien stock, like a music festival. So
that's cool.
We're here in the midst of the making of Firefest 2, and I figured even though we haven't talked about it yet, we can talk about it right before this becomes a complete catastrophe so that at least we have some sort of documentation that we were aware that all of this shit was happening. Have you been paying attention to any of this?
No, I've not. I've just saw it as some dumb internet thing. That's all I've been paying. It wasn't even on my radar.
It's smart, but it's a little late. You know, like, obviously, if you get access to 2 million fucking people, more than that, impressions, then you try to monetize it the best way you can.
Shit.
It's like, if you've got that many people that are waiting with bated breath for the next thing you say, you better make sure that thing that you say fucking somehow benefits you, because what a great opportunity for so much PR. He could have reached out to these huge companies, fast food chains that were trying to get in on the action and actually organize something that was incredibly successful. I'm looking at CBS News right here, and the article says the Storm Area 51 event page has been removed by Facebook, but coordinators are still planning
Hold on. Facebook removed it? Why?
Let's see.
I mean, it was obviously a joke.
Yeah, I think it's because they were calling for people to raid a highly secure and confidential military base.
Oh, true. Yeah, even though it's a joke, I guess there's certain things you can't joke about, even though I've seen much worse on Facebook.
And if 1.5 million of us know that it's completely a joke. You know, what about the rest of them? You gotta wonder.
Yes, it's very true.
To the point that the military actually had to release a statement that was like, if you guys come down here and you try to raid this, we are a military installation. We will fuck you up.
Like, you will die.
Don't make us do that. Because nobody wants a problem. But there's a town called Rachel, Nevada, with a population of 50. There are 50 people in Rachel, Nevada. There is one gift shop / hotel / I think brothel. And they're like, yeah, y'all come on out. They have no idea how they're going to support it. The planner said he expects 20,000 people to attend. I could see that.
I could totally see that. But let's be real. If 2,000 people showed up, this town would be overrun.
Oh my God, dude. They would not know. Yeah, they would not know what to do. And
I'm sure they don't have hotels to support even that.
The one they have is booked, completely booked up, obviously. This new event that they're planning boasts a quote-unquote party in the desert with camping, music, art installations, and surprise performances, although no musical guests are listed on the website.
This is going to be a disaster.
Lil Nas X, who made an Area 51 remix to his song Old Town. God damn, how many remixes to that song are there?
Oh my God.
But he once joked that he would perform for free, but hasn't commented since it actually turned into a festival.
I could see him actually doing it for free. The kid's loaded now. What is, one song.
He is the one dude that would probably show up and do it. It's just like, what are they?
He's also like a super nerdy anime kid. Like might show up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's still an opportunity for publicity there, but like we saw what Billy McFarland with fucking bottomless pockets wasn't able to accomplish by charging $12,000 a ticket for this luxury event. This guy's asking for donations.
Yeah, it sounds like if anyone goes and thinks it's going to be nice, like go just to hang out with a bunch of weirdos and camp, cool.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, and that's just it. You and I have talked about camping before. If you're an experienced outdoorsman, you could probably go out and have a good time. If you're like a Instagram model who thinks you're going to go out there and be pampered to, you're probably going to be extremely disappointed.
Yeah, this is the homeless for a weekend tour.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Have you ever been to one of these small towns? Like, I'm sure they're all over Florida too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
New Mexico has a ton of these weird little, like, Pie Town, which is like there's literally one cop car with a dummy in it parked on the side of the road. It's all covered in dust, like to stop people from speeding.
That's our police department.
Yeah, it's literally like that. It was the weirdest shit I've ever seen. It definitely was some hills have eyes. You're definitely going to get raped and or murdered there.
So, I mean, I know you, and I know you're not super far away from this. This isn't something that you would be interested in going to, even ironically.
Oh, hell no. This sounds like a miserable time. Being outside, covered in bugs and sweat by annoying weirdos. No, this is everything I hate in one thing.
Can you imagine just 20,000 of me? Like, bro.
Dude, they are going to be they're going to be the most stinky neck people you've ever seen. It's like a convention with even less showering.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really fair point that you bring up there. That puts in perspective. It's like it all sounds flowery and rosy till you get there and you got to deal with people's stink.
Well, and then there's going to be the people like you who like, this is funny. Then there's going to be the other people who really want to go there with their tinfoil hats and talk about aliens all day.
Yeah, for me, it would almost just be like, hey, it's grammable. We go and hang out with people who are like kind of hipstery and think this shit's funny. But then, yeah, there probably are going to be the people that have like stocked up on ammunition and are going to go find those fucking aliens like hell or high water.
There's going to be some people getting drunk and firing assault rifles into the air some point in the night.
Oh, my God. Yeah, well, we will keep you guys posted on any updates to this story as they come available. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what a disaster this ends up being
a full topic eventually, this disaster that happens.
Man reports gun stolen during weekend orgy. There are lots of suspects. Oh my
That's
goodness.
amazing.
Yeah, dude. Like it just sounds like a weird flex if I'm being honest. I don't even know that the guy had a gun. He just wanted to call the cops and be like, I had a huge orgy this
I
weekend.
don't even know if he had a huge orgy.
Yeah, like none of these things could potentially
Yeah.
be true.
He's like, or he got drunk and lost his gun while masturbating, and then he's like, nah, that counts.
So on August 8th, in the midst of a weekend orgy, a 9mm handgun was stolen from a host's bedroom, according to the Florida police, who are not confident in catching the thief since guests at the gathering were encouraged to use fake names. As detailed in a Fallujah County Sheriff's Department report, a 63-year-old victim told deputies that his Glock turned up missing after last month's open house party at his residence in Deltona, in 30 miles north of Orlando. So he was a retired 60-something-year-old man, or 63-year-old man who used to be a corrections officer who was promoting gay sex parties at his house. And like 20 people ended up in attendance, but they were all advised to use fake names so that it was theme was like an anonymous sex party. So he said he knew like 5 or 6 of the people, but the rest of them are strangers. Any chance he's getting that gun back?
No.
No.
There's no chance. Do you know what it reminds me of? The Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode where Frank and Dennis go to an orgy and there's the buffet there. Have you seen that episode?
Mm-mm.
They go knock on the door and they're wearing Frank's in like a eyes wide shut mask and like a gown.
Oh, and they get there and it's just like a bunch of really homely old people. Yeah, like swingers from the 70s.
I love it. They go, what's the password? And Danny DeVito goes, orgy. That's like the whole time you're talking, that's all I can picture.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. And the cops, I mean, are a little bit like, hey man, are you sure that you didn't have an open house party where you're encouraging people to come have sex? Because like that's kind of illegal.
Is that illegal?
In Florida, open house parties are illegal, and what makes it an open house party is that there were not invitations sent out to people. So if you're just like, come one, come all to my event, that is illegal in Florida.
That is insane to me.
It's not in Colorado. Not that you know of, huh?
Not that I know of. I know in New Mexico, like it is, I'm pretty sure it is. Everyone just like, people show up and parties get crazy and people get shot and all that shit because New Mexico sucks. But
isn't that interesting? I didn't know if it was a federal thing or a state thing. It's always just been the normal for me, but I never questioned it.
Yeah, I never even thought that was a thing. Like, that's one of those things I'm like, whoa, what? Like, that's
but it's like what you said. I guess it's just to eliminate the likelihood of, strangers showing up in conflict. Yeah, or just it getting so out of control in a neighborhood that you'd or having minors show up. I guess there's a lot of reasons why they do it, but I remember, getting mini house parties broken up when we were kids because of that.
Yeah, I never had that happen. I mean, I've had people call up for like cops come because of noise complaints,
Sure.
but never for this.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Kind of funny that he would even think that reporting that would help anything. And this apparently wasn't his first sex party. In quotes, he says, "I entertain quite a bit." So he's had these before, and there's no leads. And the status of this larceny case has been classified by cops as suspended/inactive. So just a funny story.
So real quick, when I Googled that, the first thing that came up, I put open house party laws, and everything that came up was Alabama or Florida.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there's not more, but just glancing at it, looks like that's where it seems mainly Florida.
Interesting.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'll be damned. I didn't know. Hadn't even thought about the whole open house party thing in quite a while. But yeah, it used to be a thing growing up. You couldn't pass out flyers for events. It was like they had to be invitations.
Oh yeah, that's weird. That's the weirdest thing. That's the weird news to me. Is this law.
Oh shit. Never would I attend an orgy.
No, God no. Like the orgies are never like, okay, if you want to see what a real orgy is like, you can Google, like, go to Pornhub. We were talking about Pornhub, search orgy. You'll get a professional one. It'll be very attractive. Then search real or amateur orgy. It will make you not want to attend an orgy.
Very, very, very true. Very true. So if it sounds appealing to you, you just haven't thought it through.
Yeah, no, this is not good.
All right, so the next story. Florida man dumps dirt on his girlfriend's borrowed car with a front end loader, according to police. This one came from Fox News, and I gotta say, I don't know what the catalyst of it was. It doesn't say in the article. What it does say is a Florida man allegedly damaged a white Cadillac after he dumped a bunch of dirt on it after his girlfriend showed up to his job. Basically, he said, come up here to my job. I want to talk to you about something. She showed up in this borrowed car. I'm assuming, and I'm fucking filling in a lot of blanks here. I'm assuming it belonged to another guy. That's the only reason why I can think of. But again, I don't know what the fuck's going on. But she shows up in this white Cadillac. He's a 20-year-old, and he works for an excavating company in Crestview, Florida, which is literally right up the road from here. And he took this big-ass dump truck and just dumped red clay all over the top of the car, filling the cab and everything inside of it with red clay while she was in it. And, of course, he was arrested.
She was in it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's like, how dare you go to that open house orgy? And then just
you clean the prints off that gun, right?
Yeah. So, I thought it was crazy, but the fact that she was in it, you're like, whoa, that's some crazy shit.
So, quote from a police officer, she arrived in a white 2010 Cadillac belonging to someone else after she refused to answer a question. Probably, bitch, whose car is that? The defendant used a front-end loader and dumped a bucket full of dirt on the roof of the driver's side half of the car. The girlfriend was not injured, but the driver's side window was open, and this caused the dirt to fill up the air vent, center console, and power windows. There is a circumstance, and I'm not gonna say what it is. There is a circumstance where this was a total legitimate retaliation for something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm assuming fill in the blank is infidelity of some sort. You know, like that's where my brain goes to. And he's like, "Bitch, this is the dude's car you've been cheating on. Fuck you, fuck him." Filling in the blanks that's probably the most likely situation.
He might want to go get this thing detailed after I dump fucking red clay on the entire thing. And it's not like he went over it with a steamroller or anything. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a pretty funny way to get. It's almost like the equivalent of pouring water on somebody's head, only at a much larger scale.
It's the car version of that.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll pretty much do it for that particular topic. This is another one that's really close to home. Pensacola man used his massage parlor as a front for human trafficking ring, says the Department of Justice. Not a fun headline, but I work at a company over in Gulf Breeze, and directly across the street it was this like small, almost looked like a mobile home, like built up off the ground, like not a really nice building by any means, and it was a massage parlor / psychic reading place.
Yes.
And there's
I'm into it.
Never a soul there. Never saw anybody there. I walk past it to go to McDonald's to get lunch sometimes, and always I'm like, man, how do these places even stay open? It's weird to me. Sometime I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get my fucking fortune read. That's what I always thought. Never the massage part of it, but just like I want them to read my palm or something. Well, I think it was Wednesday that I had left work at about 4:30 in the afternoon, and right afterwards there was a police raid on this place.
So this is the one that's in the story.
This is one of the three that are in this story. Yeah, so a Pensacola business owner was arrested Thursday. Okay, so it was Thursday on charges that he operated a human trafficking ring out of Asian massage parlors across 3 states. David C. Williams, 41, faces multiple federal racketeering, money laundering, and harboring illegal aliens charges for his role as an owner of parlors in Florida, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. The release said Williams has locations in Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, and Gainesville. So there's one out here in Pensacola where I live. There was the one in Gulf Breeze. That is where I work. And then the Gainesville one I'm not actually familiar with, but I knew of these places. And you hear about this happening, especially in massage parlors, but this was a joint effort between multiple law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, IRS, and Homeland Security, which all led to his arrest. These agencies executed more than a dozen search warrants of businesses linked to Williams, and authorities seized his bank records as well. His arrest comes just days after WEAR investigated raided 2 massage parlors. Okay, so this was right, like what I said earlier. Wednesday was actually when they got raided. He got arrested the next day. Records show that he's being held at Santa Rosa Jail, and his detention hearing is set for August 20th at 2 p.m. So this kind of will spill over nicely into the Epstein conversation. But what do you think about these massage parlors actually being places where they're doing human trafficking?
So this guy, just picture him and be like, no, that's the way we read Paul. That's the way we read your psychic. We read the veins on your penis. That's that's the. It's one of those things. It's like it's a stereotype, and you hear it, but this isn't by any means the first time that I've heard a story like this about an Asian massage parlor. Like, it's surprisingly common that these stories. I'm assuming the vast majority of them are just massage parlors, but that connection is really high to the point where if you were going to do this, literally do anything but a massage parlor.
That's what I was thinking. It's almost like the business itself is all the probable cause that they need to investigate it. All right, well, while we are on the topic of human trafficking, this plays very, very heavily into the whole Epstein reason why he was arrested in the very beginning. So we'll go ahead and switch over to my topic, but interestingly, after you and I talked before we started recording, I think I'm going to let you kind of lead the conversation, and I just kind of want to touch on some of the stuff that you have uncovered, and we'll just both give our own takes on it. But first of all, for you guys that don't know, Jeffrey Epstein was a very powerful and very wealthy businessman who had dealings with some of the most powerful and successful politicians and celebrities in the world. He's a financier, which basically means he made money off of money. Like, he's just like a money person, and he has ties to celebrities, politicians, and even royalty. He was arrested earlier this summer on multiple disturbing charges, including these charges of human trafficking, sex with minors, all sorts of stuff, prostitution-related charges, and very notably, he has ties to both the Clintons and the Trumps. So this is a very high-profile case. He recently was put back in jail over these sex charges and tried to hang himself, tried to kill himself once, was unsuccessful in doing so, and then within just a couple days later, he was found dead in his cell. Bed sheet wrapped around his neck. Just a day or two ago, it was ruled as a suicide by the coroners, but this has not stopped lots and lots of speculation and conspiracy theories surrounding the true nature of his death. And before we do get into any of this, I know this is kind of a long preface, but I don't think either of our intentions are to convince you of anything as a listener. I don't think either of us are coming at this from a perspective of having near enough facts or truth or evidence to really, hopefully, even influence your thoughts. If anything, I would just like for you to take a second to go and try to, do a little bit of your own research about it if you care to, and don't jump to any conclusions, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because with all conspiracies, there are lots of stars in the sky, and you can draw lines between them and create your own constellations and make pictures that maybe the rest of the world doesn't see. So, don't jump to conclusions. Anyways, Caleb, you did a bit of research about this. Where do you want to start, man?
So I'll kind of give you my background, how I started researching this. So I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning. My wife's getting ready for work, and I was like, I haven't really been following this. I want to do quick research before the thing. Next thing you know, like 2.5 hours later. So I started at the suicide and worked my way backwards, because I was like, first I was just like, complete disclosure, I went in going, I'm going to prove that this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is bullshit, because I hate conspiracy theories. So I did come in very biased, saying, I'm going to prove it's not. Then I got into the rabbit hole, and I kind of tracked some things back. And so I'm actually kind of want to go through some of my findings in chronological order, not really the way I found them, because I put them more in chronological order. And just some basic facts about Epstein, who was he involved with up until the suicide. So it's a little bit of a some bullet points to break down, but I feel like this context is kind of necessary.
Okay.
So as you said, he made his money through money management. More of how he made his money is known through the earlier parts of his career, later than the later parts of his career. There's a lot of money moving around, which could be standard money management. Also could raise some red flags as far as who he got this stuff. One of the things that was weird is his New York property was transferred to him in 2011 for $0 from a donor, which is a little weird, obviously.
You don't have to pay taxes on it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that. And I don't know. It sounds like, again, could be money exchanging hands, could be favors. I don't know. He then was arrested in 2015 for his essentially, his rape island, where I think it was over 100 girls have been accused of going there. And during that 2015, he was actually only sentenced to 18 months, where he was allowed to leave for 12 hours a day and have visitors. It sounded like he pretty much slept there. In
addition to that, he was able to make lots of purchases. I mean, this is a very wealthy person. I know over that 13-month period, he ordered like 800 coffees, which, hey, I mean, if you got the money and you like good coffee, drink the good coffee. Also in that list of purchases that he made during that 13-month jail sentence were 2 pairs of children female panties that they actually inventoried and allowed into the jail with him. So the dude is a sexual deviant, and there's documentation. He was in there for sex crimes, serving a tiny little sentence, and even while he was in there, he was doing pervy shit, and they let him out anyway. So
to me, that seems like, and this is me theorizing, does seem like, high-powered people scratching his back is what that seems like, how you get off with that. He was probably most known, and this is something you're hearing a lot in the news, is his plane, which was dubbed the Lolita Express. Because of the amount of underage girls that were constantly on it. Now, the Lolita Express has flown many people. I just found a few. I had to dig through like flight logs. Naomi Campbell, Bill Clinton, Trump, Kevin Spacey. I believe Kevin Spacey was there for the HIV and AIDS Africa tour. Chris Tucker, HIV and AIDS Africa tour. Larry Summers, who was former Treasury Secretary and Harvard president, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak,
Jesus.
Ted Kennedy, Alec Baldwin, Courtney Love, and I don't know if you're familiar with Steven Pinker, the Canadian scientist. He has a lot of YouTube videos.
I'm not.
So those are some of the people. The 2 notable ones, and this is one thing that took me longer to research because I felt like depending on which news source you were listening to, it was either all Clinton or all Trump, who was involved with this. And so I don't want to take a stance on this because I'm just going to give you the facts that I was able to find. So Clinton said he flew on it 4 times. Flight logs show that he flew on it 26 times between 2001 and 2003. He does claim that he has never been to his island, even though one of the flight logs does show he goes to that island, or the ranch in New Mexico, or his residence in Florida. And he also claims that he has not spoken to Epstein in 10 years. Trump flew on the Lolita Express in January 1997 from Florida to New Jersey. Trump has been quoted as calling Epstein a, quote, terrific guy who likes, quote, beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, end quote.
No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life, and that was from a 2002 interview with the New York Magazine.
Which, that's to me, both of those are just disturbing as shit that both of these men, one flew 26 times, the other guy pretty much makes a joke about our current president that he likes young women.
And real quick, to touch on what you said, it is very fascinating because we do toe the party line. If you're a Democrat or you're a liberal, you're more likely to key in on the Trump side of it. Oh, Trump is probably orchestrated this. If you're a Republican, you're probably more likely to say, oh, the Clintons, they were in bed with this guy. They're the reason why. And as somebody who's a little more centrist, there's something fucking fishy going on. And both of these fucking people have something to do with it, So that's just kind of my stance on it. I had on my Facebook group the other day, a gentleman that I know shared a meme of all of the Star Trek red shirts and Kirk from the original series. And the meme said something like, all right, men, we need to investigate the connection between the Clintons and Jeffrey Epstein. and I got a kick out of it. I put a little laughy emoji. I thought it was fucking funny. It got reported like 30 minutes later. Somebody wanted me to pull it down, and I know what it is. It was a more liberal person feeling, I guess, attacked or triggered. I say it's fucking fair game, man. You know what I mean? Like, if it would have been the same meme and it would have used Trump, I would have felt the exact same way. I think it's funny. There's something shady going on, but to say one or the other instead of like, hey, we need to investigate what the Trumps and the Clintons know about this Epstein thing, that's a little bit of political bias being brought into the equation.
Well, and that's my thing is, like, I think if we're getting to the point where we're going to look the other way on child molestation because of party lines, we've gone too far.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
like
100%.
Now, as far as where I was leaving off with Trump, what he said, he claims he hasn't spoken to Epstein in 15 years. According to court documents, the relationship ended when Trump banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club because Epstein sexually assaulted an underage girl. Now, the news came out and said that Trump went to the thing. They can't find any record that he actually went to the island, but it's been reported.
There is archival footage from NBC showing them partying at Mar-a-Lago in 1992, November. Oh,
I mean, I'm saying from him going to Epstein's island.
Okay. No. Got you.
Now, and then they reported that the woman that Trump at this event flirted with underage girls. And one woman in particular, she came out and corrected the news, said she did not flirt. She said, "It's true that he didn't partake in sex with any of us. But it's not true that he flirted with me. Donald Trump never flirted with me." End quote. Take with that what you will. I just wanted that quote to be out there. Fast forward to all this where he gets arrested. Here's where the conspiracy theorist from the backstory. On Friday before he committed suicide on Saturday. On the Friday before, documents were unsealed and it appeared as though high-profile people would be called in to testify. Saturday, he was found dead. Leading up to the suicide, there were a couple of weird things. He was taken off suicide watch, even though he reportedly attempted it once before. They transferred his cellmate, which is also against their policy when you have someone on suicide watch. They replaced his guard. The guard apparently fell asleep. And they're supposed to check on him every 30 minutes. They can't find any video. They just can't find it. The video's gone of what happened during this time. Reports say that they heard shrieking from a cell. There's also reports saying that they heard, "Just breathe, Epstein, just breathe." You know.
So can I ask? Does it specify it was heard by other inmates?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's that there's shrieking from a cell, but we don't know that.
Other questions. Maybe you can help clarify. Were there two guards on duty that were both asleep?
I believe there was one. They changed his guard and replaced him with one who fell asleep. I believe so.
This guard that was a replacement, does it say that he was normal guard that was on the payroll that was always at that prison, or had they brought him in from somewhere else, or he was like a part-timer?
I couldn't find any information on that.
Okay, all right. Yeah. That I'd heard, and this is more rumor mill. I don't have anything in front of me concrete, but that the guard that was on duty was not even from that facility. This wasn't his normal shift. He was almost like brought in as an outsider, which also obviously is going to fuel speculation, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, that I don't know. I just know he was a replacement guard from the normal guard, which was a little odd. Mm-hmm. So then the autopsy came out, which is feeling it more, that they found 7 broken bones in his neck that were most common with strangulation. As you alluded to, the final reporting said that they believe it was suicide.
And even those bones that are more common in homicides are also probable in elderly people who die of who hang themselves. That Correct. Same bone that they're referring to can be broken in those cases. So while it is very likely that if that bone's broken that it happens in a homicide, it is also likely, even though to a lesser degree, that your suicide can break that bone as well.
And the big part where the conspiracy theory is coming in is when people usually break that bone, it's because they hang themselves and like jump off something. He didn't jump off anything.
Right.
His cell was small. He original reports said he put a sheet around his neck and leaned forward. and slowly choke the air out. Newest reports say that Epstein's death is a suicide, that he tied the bed sheet to the top bunk and knelt down with, quote, knelt down with force to break enough of the several bones. So that should be the end of it. But Epstein's lawyers now reject the findings of the autopsy and said they will release an official statement in the coming days. So further saying, what's going on with it. And that's all the research that I could find, kind of summarized.
All very, very interesting stuff. Back to this idea that basically Epstein's pattern of abuse was being described as a sexual pyramid scheme. He allegedly paid underage girls anywhere from $200 to $1,000 for a quote-unquote massage. Then he would offer them more money to bring him more girls. So he was using girls to recruit other girls. Very, very typical tactics in this kind of situation. I mean, more recently, we heard similar tactics with that sex cult. The girl that was in the CW shows or whatever was like going around and recruiting other girls for a sex pyramid scheme, basically. So he is undoubtedly a bad man. There were 80 identified women who claimed that they were molested or sexually abused by Epstein. And this one particular girl named Courtney Wild said she personally recruited 70 to 80 girls for him. So he claimed that many of his encounters or any of his encounters were consensual, and that he believed they were all 18 years old. I think conspiracy theories aside, we can both agree that he was knowledgeably having sexual encounters with underage girls and paying for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, then when you see I'm sure you've seen the videos of his island with like those weird buildings with mattresses on the floor.
No, I haven't.
No, it's terrifying, dude. There's like these weird buildings with mattresses just on the floor. That was like the quote unquote pedophile island that he was known for. Yeah, that people, some celebrities have flown to. Like I said, Clinton denies it, but there are flight records showing he actually did go there. Not saying he did anything. I don't know, but it does appear that a lot of high-powered, influential people went to this island where there were underage girls and buildings with mattresses on the floor, and they had very parties,
Yeah.
That seems pretty concrete.
According to Vox, the FBI had a 53-page indictment. This is all from Elle magazine, by the way. But according to Vox, the FBI had a 53-page indictment ready in 2007 that would have likely put him behind bars for life. Instead, he was punished with just 13 months in a Comfy County jail. As Caleb said, most of the time he didn't even have to spend there. And it's because he had a deal signed by then U.S. Attorney for Miami, Alexander Acosta, who is now President Trump's Secretary of Labor. So he, again, connected to influential people, was able to kind of get favorable treatment out of it. And a lot of people believe that the reason why is because he had dirt on very powerful people. And also, like Caleb mentioned, there were people that were coming in to give testimony that could be very damaging to the political careers of the people who were involved with it. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't believe that Bill Clinton is capable of doing inappropriate things. Like, there was a huge scandal about it. I feel the same way about Trump. I feel the same way. Like, I heard somebody smarter than me say that absolute power doesn't corrupt absolutely, but what absolute power does is reveal. So if the person has those tendencies, it gives them the ability to be who they really are. And, there's, and this is where it's going to get real freaking prickly for me and for, in particular, is that, there was the whole Pizzagate thing. And what it reminds me of is, you remember playing telephone in kindergarten or whatever? They teach you this really important fundamental lesson about communication, is that you can deliver one message from one person to the next, and by the end of this chain, it's been completely distorted. There's a kernel of truth that remains, but most every bit of information has been altered in some way. And I think back to the Pizzagate thing, and the real general narrative was the Clintons have a powerful sex ring of pedophiles and human trafficking going on underneath this fucking pizzeria. And part of my brain started ticking and saying, like, is this the end result of a game of telephone that started out with the fact that Bill Clinton was involved with Jeffrey Epstein in having sex with underage girls and this literal fucking pyramid scheme of sex trafficking? And again, I'm not going to say that it is, but these are the kind of things that you really should be questioning regardless of your political ideology, because if it came out that Clinton was involved with something like that, that doesn't make you a bad Democrat. It doesn't make you a bad liberal. Ideology is separate from individuals, and if we just say, oh, he's a Democrat, he's one of the good guys, then we're oversimplifying something that needs to have more nuance. Just because you voted for him doesn't, and even just because his policies you believe in, doesn't mean that on a personal level that they are good people or morally just.
I agree. I actually think you hit something really important too, like the telephone game, but the kernel of truth, is kind of where something starts at. And I feel like most conspiracy theories start with the kernel of truth. The thing that's disturbing is the kernel of truth here is there was a pedophile island where high influential people went on a plane that was dubbed the Lolita Express. Like, that's the kernel of truth, and that's terrifying enough, So I don't know where that conspiracy goes from there, but the kernel of truth here are these things that we've covered here, and a lot of this stuff is, I don't want to sound like I hate conspiracy theories, but a lot of it is very weird on all ends.
There's just a lot of there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that even if it doesn't conclusively mean it, it just fuels the speculation. It creates enough gaps in our information that we have no choice but to draw these really far out conclusions, because what we have is very suspect.
And it's funny, you won't hear me say this very often, but I agree a lot with Ocasio-Cortez on this. She wants a full investigation. And as someone she is a progressive, so she doesn't really like the Clintons. She doesn't really like the Trumps. I'm a firm believer of we need to get to the bottom of this. I don't care if it comes out that all the Democrats and all the Republicans were involved. We need to know.
We need to know even more.
Yeah.
We need to know even more.
I don't understand and that's what really bothered me when trying to research this is I would go to Fox News and the narrative was all just Clinton. I would go to CNN, the narrative was all Trump. And it's like, both of these things are happening. Why don't we just report the facts?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to spend 2 hours digging through multiple things to piece together, okay, here's the timeline. Because no one would want to say this. And I don't know if Epstein killed himself. I don't know. I don't know if what happened there. But I do know that there were influential people who were on this plane, who some reportedly went to this island, some did not. One of our president was quoted as saying he likes, not Trump, but that Epstein likes underage women, and not underage women, young. That could mean, I guess, 18. But there's a lot of weird fishiness with this, and I feel like for a big chunk of the country, politics is taking precedent over this. Like, it's more important the politics of who's behind it rather than the truth. And I don't care about the politics, especially when there's underage women involved. So keep your politics out of it.
While Trump did say young girls and didn't explicitly say underage girls, for those of you guys who may not get the reference or know why the plane was called the Lolita Express, in 1955 there was a Russian-American author that wrote a novel called Lolita that was about a adult man falling in love with a fucking child. It's been remade a couple times. Stanley Kubrick actually did an adaptation of it that a lot of people probably would have seen in 1962, I believe. And then Jeremy Irons was in a 1997 version of it. So anyways, in culture, Lolita, that name is synonymous with underage girl, sexual relationship with underage girl. So like, there's not a lot of being able to sidestep that, or like saying, I didn't know that's what was going on, when it's been coined a name after that very thing.
Yeah, I feel like Lolita is pretty widely accepted as a term for underage girls.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you even like anime, they have Lolita anime, and it's all underage girls dressing sexy. It's very fucking weird and disturbing.
Yeah. So back all the way around to did Epstein kill himself, or is it something more nefarious? I think the most likely story is always the easiest. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so with that said, I believe Epstein killed himself. I don't think anybody went in there and killed him. I also believe that he was enabled. That it would not there would be no love lost if this man ended up dead. It would keep his secrets secret. It would nobody's gonna mourn the loss of a serial pedophile, with the exception of the poor girls who were actually victims that were waiting for him to get his day in court so that they could feel some semblance of justice or closure, which who am I to say one way or the other what justice or closure is, but I'm not a firm believer in either of those things. I think we always feel like there's going to be some definitive day that we can put it all behind us, but trauma doesn't exactly work that way, and that you think that, but him having to face his accusers and being, indicted or being declared guilty, I'm sure that would help with the closure aspect. So I don't want to diminish that, but my point more is that, like, nobody's going to miss a person like that. If they thought that he was susceptible to suicide and they pulled him, extracted him out of that situation to put him in a place where he wouldn't be able to kill himself, and then he killed himself, their negligence allowed it to happen. Now, whether it's a grand conspiracy or not, I can't really say for sure, but there's also been a lot of discussion about, like, the fact that, I don't know, 30 people have died that have had connection to the Clintons and all of that stuff. I didn't do enough research into that to know for sure, but I will say, if you are a public figure for 4 decades and 40 people close to you or that you have a relationship die, that's not necessarily a conspiracy. That's just fucking math. That's just averages. It's like, I know people who die. I've known 10 people that died in my lifetime. I know people
who've been murdered. Yeah.
And they don't. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It's just the law of averages. So I don't know about all of that. I did feel like it was worth mentioning. Is that something that you looked into or heard anything about?
I mean, I've heard about the Clinton thing for years. I mean, I've even heard, the accusations that Clinton raped women, like actually raped women in, I think it was the 90s or whatever, right before he was president. I've heard those accusations, and that, allegedly Hillary Clinton helped, like, bury these people's lives. I've heard all that, but to be completely honest, I haven't done enough research on it to say definitively that I know that happened, and I don't like throwing out conspiracy, because I hate conspiracy theories.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't like throwing out stuff like that without doing enough research, because what I've heard is exactly that. It's what I've heard. I haven't researched any of it.
Yeah, and maybe it is something that we will revisit. I do find it just very fascinating, and I always, while I like conspiracy theories, I really just like the process behind them. Again, it's like the idea that we all look up into the sky and we see the stars, and we all create different, like, you look at the clouds in the sky and you all interpret something different from the same information. And so from that perspective, I think it's interesting. I like the food for thought, the what if proposition, but I typically tend to fall on the side of the easiest answer, like you said.
And for my final thought on it, I would actually agree 100% with you. Do I think he killed himself? I honestly do. I don't know whether or not, them, despite being on suicide watch, pulling his cellmate, despite this, changing the guard. I don't know. Maybe there was stuff, like you said, that there is a possibility that this was all intentional to look the other way and allow him to kill himself. I feel like the more conspiracy theory stuff that's kind of interesting is stuff that's really not that conspiracy theories. It's the Lolita Express. It's the flight logs. It's the comments Trump made. It's like the actual factual stuff of this. to me is so disturbing that you don't really need a conspiracy theorist as far as how he died. The backstory is more disturbing than his death, personally.
I think that's a really good point. I think that's a really good point.
And I feel like we need to dial in on that because, I firmly believe, let the FBI do an investigation. Party lines be damned. Get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
And I don't care who comes out as the bad guy, or I don't care if it exonerates everyone or if it proves that everyone's. I just think the truth needs to be out there for people.
Yeah, like the best thing that could happen to us as a society. Well, that's a horrible thing to say. Maybe I should backtrack this. But the best thing that we could find as a society is that corruption doesn't care about your political affiliation. Corruption, it runs deep and it doesn't fucking matter. All of these people that we're all like warring over and getting in these heated debates, they're all fucking teenagers at the same house parties on the weekends. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing that cracks me up is like people will defend all of these people. Clintons, Trumps, everyone. You don't know these people.
Mm-mm.
You know nothing about them. You know what their PR tells you. You know what they tell to the media. You know what the media says, who I'm a firm believer of, and this just reinforced it. I'm a firm believer of the media has an agenda left and right because they purposely just doing my research, it was very eye-opening, even more than I realized on both ends of they just leave out little details. They don't lie, but they purposely leave out details that, well, yeah, we don't want to talk about that part because it doesn't fit my agenda.
Yeah, we'll fuck up the narrative that I'm selling here. Yeah.
And that bothers me.
Well, guys, on that note, we would actually really love to hear your thoughts about it. No wrong answers. Just kind of weigh in. Let us know what your thoughts are down in the comments section. And we're going to go ahead and move on to our final topic of the week. Caleb, take it away.
All right. So you guys are all familiar with Zelda Breath of the Wild, the cel-shaded, free-roaming Zelda game that's on Nintendo Switch. Well, there is a company... a Chinese company who just revealed a game for PS4 exclusive, called Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact does have a lot of similarities to Breath of the Wild. It is cel-shaded. It is open world. It is an action RPG. It still hasn't. People haven't really played hands-on with it. So we don't know how it plays. Look-wise, it does look strikingly similar. People have China Joy-Con, I think it is called. We're seen taking pictures, flipping off the Genshin Impact symbol, holding their Switches. Another man broke his PS4. There's also been other accusations of the new Ubisoft game, Gods and Monsters, I believe, looking like a Zelda ripoff, as well as something Logos, Path of Logos, something. And my question is, in all media, but obviously gaming, when does something cross over the line from homage and influence into blatant ripoff?
Dude, first of all, like, to kind of key in on that guy that broke his PlayStation, he was at the convention floor, and he went up to, like, where the promotional booth was for this game, and I guess in protest of it, he lifts this fucking console up over his head and just smash and destroy. I mean, you really showed them, dude. I'm sure that, like, what the fuck did you just do that for?
I thought that was, even the people taking pictures flipping off with their thing, it to me just seemed like rabid fanboyism.
Uh-huh. So, okay, first things first. The game looks so similar. It looks so incredibly similar. If you told me it was the same art designer, I would not bat an eye. I would say, yeah, clearly it's the same developers. It's the same fucking team. They probably use the same program to run both of them. Not necessarily the case. The developers of that Genshin Empire or whatever it's called. That's not right.
Genshin Impact.
Genshin Impact, the creators of that, they're more known for developing mobile apps. So this is like a pretty big deal for them to develop this console game, and it's getting a lot of press because of all of this discussion around it. And if I'm being honest, I watched quite a bit of gameplay footage from Breath of the Wild as well as this. I've never played Breath of the Wild. I am a definite devout Zelda fan. I just have never had access to a Switch. I never stopped to buy one or anything like that. that just because I don't do as much gaming these days, but I've always loved Zelda, and it's easily one of the most influential titles and franchises in video game history. Lots and lots of games, lots from mechanics to design elements to story elements to Zelda all the way back to the beginning. So on one hand, yeah, this game looks strikingly similar, but if we're going to point fingers at this, shouldn't we look at, going all the way back to games like Final Fight versus Streets of Rage? Very similar aesthetic. They're both beat 'em ups. They've got a similar style to them. Or, hey, should we look at Mario Kart compared to Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing? Should we look at Dota compared to League of Legends, compared to Mobile Legends, Bang Bang? Like, there are so many games that are developed and built on the backs of the success of predecessors, and that's kind of capitalism. Is it ripping off? Yeah, kind of, but can you blame somebody for ripping off a formula that they know is going to be successful in a game that they all loved and might have had profound influence on them?
Well, and so I do have a Switch. I beat Breath of the Wild. It's a good game. It's not nearly the 10 out of 10 that everyone makes out to be. It's
not your favorite Zelda title?
Oh, not even close. But it's good. I'm not going to say it's not. It's one of the better handheld games I've ever played. But is this look like a Zelda ripoff? Yeah, a little bit. Not even a little bit. It does. I'm going to take it one step further. Zelda Breath of the Wild is Horizon Zero Dawn, the PS4 exclusive, in cell shaded. You climb towers, you run around a big free roaming area with grass, and you kill monsters. And I'll take that even one step further. Horizon Zero Dawn is a ripoff of Assassin's Creed. You climb towers, you run around a big open environment. I feel like this has been glued on because of cell shading, which I literally, because I just happen to have my Switch next to me.
Beautiful Joe. Just throwing that one out there. Yeah.
I'm going to just put this up real quick. This is Naruto Shippuden. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's cell shaded. That looks pretty similar to Breath of the Wild.
Cell shading is how you take two-dimensional art and translate it to a three-dimensional space.
Yes, and Breath of the Wild is very anime inspired.
Correct.
And Genshin Impact looks like an anime.
Even more anime inspired. Yeah.
And so that was my thing. I'm like, if we're bearing it down on just on art style, then yeah, to me, that's the biggest thing, but I'd have to get my hands on it. It does look similar. I don't want to downplay that. It does. But I'd have to get my hands on it and actually play the game. Apparently, according to what I've done, the little bit of research I've done on it, it plays completely different. It's more of an action RPG. It's a lot more intense. And then the other game that's being accused of it is almost like Dark Souls style combat. Apparently, it's very brutal. And people who play that, they're like, it's actually nothing like it. It's just cell shaded and free roaming.
And free roaming doesn't even feel like it can be, what game isn't these days?
Every game now is. In fact, it's one of my biggest complaints about modern gaming. I don't always want to play a free roaming game.
Yep. Yeah.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I want 5-hour story. Just give me a story. But everything is. And if so, then we need to go back and say they're all ripoffs of GTA, or actually they're all ripoffs of the original Zelda.
Correct.
Because,
Yes, the Nintendo Zelda was one of the first open world map games that you could play out there.
Or we can even take it one step farther. Zelda, big ripoff of Dungeons and Dragons, just in virtual form.
Yeah. So we've kind of established that I don't think that there's a clear way to say that this is a straight up ripoff. As far as the more broad discussion of at what point does it become a blatant ripoff? I don't know. You look at platform games, nobody looked at...
Crash Bandicoot and Banjo-Kazooie are pretty much the same game.
Right. And are they ripoffs of each other? You almost have to think, all art is influenced by art. Yes, at some points it's influenced by the real world, but art moves people, and art moves people and inspires people into action to create their own art. So everybody, there's a really great quote, I'm going to misquote it right now, but it's great artists create, good artists create, great artists steal. Something to that effect. I think Vincent van Gogh or fucking Pablo Picasso said it, and it's we are all we're all just adapting from experiences. Like, we're all just, everything's an adaptation of something that we've either played, something that we've watched, something that moved us artistically, and you take influences and inspiration from different things. But then there's also like parallel thinking where like that person could have made that game, and obviously this doesn't apply in this particular scenario, but it's possible that the developers of this game never even played Breath of the Wild. They just happened to have an aesthetic that was similar because that aesthetic isn't exclusive to Breath of the Wild.
Well, and I think you hit a nail on the head. So when I was much younger, and I was like an angry little fat nerd in my teenage years, I would get angry about ripping stuff off. And I remember one of those things that I really got angry about was, not angry, but I was just like, this movie sucks. And I still don't like the movie, but not for this reason, was Avatar. I was like, Avatar is just a ripoff of Ferngully, which is just a ripoff of Dances with Wolves, all the same story. Yeah, because it's basic storytelling, you know?
Right.
It may not be inspired, but to call Avatar a ripoff of like Dances with Wolves, I think I was making a stretch. That being said, James Cameron might have looked at it and been like, man, this would be cool, but with aliens, you know? But that change, you take great art, like you said, good art, and you change it to make it better. You're inspired by that, mixed with a little bit of real life, plus sometimes parallel thinking. If we want to go that far, every movie is a ripoff of the first film, or Wizard of Oz is considered the most influential film of all time. I tend to agree with that. Every film, there's parts of Wizard of Oz in every modern film. They're not ripoffs of the Wizard of Oz. They've been growing on top of each other.
Yes.
The art form has.
Yeah. It's like they're building blocks, you know, and so as far as like at what point should a game be able to sue, or should a developer of a game be able to sue another? You can't use the same sprites. You can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say stolen assets.
You can't have the same character names. You can't have the same music within the game. If you don't have the same music, if you don't have the same character names, if you're not using the same sprites, if you're not using the same fucking maps, it's fair game, pretty much.
It might be a knockoff. It might be derivative. But now, the App Store is very full of actual ripoffs. They'll like take a game apart, steal the character models, and throw it back together in just like a weird way. Like on Android, I know. I'm assuming it's probably the same on iPhone, but there's just apps where you're like, that's this character from this main video game, just in your game. You know?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That Mobile Legends Bang Bang is a game that I love playing on my mobile, and it is a straight up ripoff of League of Legends. And League of Legends is almost exactly the same game as Dota, but it became a genre. So now it's like there's this whole category of games that are all a ripoff of that one very influential game, but it's become a genre. It's like all first-person shooters. You don't consider them ripping each other off anymore. It's just a genre now.
I agree, and that's the thing is when something gets big, it becomes a genre. Look at Battle Royale. PUBG is like the first one who really made it popular today. Granted, Battle Royales are just old school multiplayer with one life.
Yeah,
you know, like they literally are Battle Royale because of the Battle Royale movie and anime and comic where they shrink the ring in. And so they all ripped off that, which is fine.
So then it goes from that to Fortnite, and then to what's the Apex Legends. Correct. They're all the same game, basically.
Yeah, they're all the same game, and there's a billion of these free-to-play ones on the PSN store and on Steam, you know, now, to where it's not... I remember at one point in time when Grand Theft Auto came out, and then Saints Row came out, and then I think it was like True Crime, and then there was that one where you were a cop in Hong Kong, which was... It first was like, oh, all these are just rip-offs of GTA. Now it's just a genre, you know, like the crime open world genre is just a genre, you know. It's the same to me debate that I've heard people make, which I think is unjust, that Star Wars just ripped off Star Trek. They're very different, in my opinion, but they're both sci-fi, you know. They're both about people meeting up with weird aliens, I guess, if you want to get that technical. But have you ever seen a movie that you do feel is like a blatant ripoff? I'm trying to think. I know I have, but I don't know why I feel like something specifically is.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time coming up with, let's see. I mean, obviously, there's always like the Dante peaks and the volcanoes, but I feel like maybe the studios got word that the other one was making that and they tried to crank it out at the same amount of time. But it's also the parallel thinking thing is
Armageddon and Deep Impact.
correct. Yeah. Same kind of deal. Who's to say? Did one studio here like, oh, over at the Sony lot, they're making this movie. We need to go ahead and make our own. And almost kind of cannibalize our audience, or hope that because disaster movies are popular right now that people will go out and see both instead of just picking one over the other. It doesn't seem like it would make a lot of sense to try to appeal to the same market of moviegoers within the same amount of time. So to me, that
it seems counterproductive.
Right. It seems more like lateral or parallel thinking, and that's something that like we can't rule out, even though Breath of the Wild is very clearly the most successful Nintendo Switch title.
Yes.
So if you were going to emulate a game, you would want to go with the one that has a proven track record, and Zelda is definitely got a lot of name recognition. And without Zelda, I wouldn't have heard of this new game.
No,
so it's actually
smart.
working out really well for them in this case.
I feel like the protesting is what made it. If no one would have protested this game, no one would have known about it. And now I look down, I'm like, oh, it looks kind of fun. It looks like an anime game. It looks fun.
It looks like something I'd enjoy playing.
Yeah, it looks like a big dumb hack 'em slash and beat 'em up. Nothing like too deep, which would be perfect. I don't know if it's coming to Switch. I think it's PS4 exclusive. Would be at home at the Switch because those are the type of games I play on the go.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I can think of one thing that is like blatant ripoff, and it's DC and Marvel constantly ripping each other off for generations.
Oh yeah,
and it's gone both ways. Like a character would create someone, and they would get popular, and Marvel would go, "We need that character," and they'd make that version.
For example, Darkseid and Thanos.
Yes,
that's Deadpool and Deathstroke.
They're the same characters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they've both tried to capitalize on that. And those, to me, do seem like actual ripoffs where they're like, no, we need that character. They're big. But that's one of the few examples I can think of, like, blatant trying to rip off. And even a lot of these characters over the years are no longer ripoffs of each other.
Right. Like they've diverged at some point. Some writer has reinvented them in a way that kind of further separates them from the previous iterations. A lot of times, and I don't know right here in front of me, but sometimes the same creator of a Marvel character would go over to DC and be like, "Hey, we need that character over here. Let's do a small spin on it and call it our own." So there definitely is. It would be naive to say that in no industry like film, video games, comic books, novels, any of that stuff, that people aren't stealing ideas. I mean, of course they are. Of course, screenwriters hear some other guy with a great script idea and are like, "I'm going to go and write that same thing, and I'm going to get my shit auctioned before they do." Before they do. So obviously it happens, and whether or not this game is a ripoff or not, I think all games are so similar now that you can't really. If you set that precedent, it would fuck up so many games all the way back to the beginning.
Why do you think this has been a particular lightning rod for gaming? Like, it seems like a lot of podcasts I'm listening to and stuff and gaming shows, this is the one that like really offended people, when I would argue this has been going on forever.
I would imagine because of people's connection to Zelda, the franchise itself.
That's what I was thinking. I feel like this is because, and so I'll say one more, like Hellblade, one of my favorite games on PS4. Hellblade, smaller game. You play God of War, it's almost identical as far as the way it controls. You could easily make the argument that that's as much of a ripoff. I wouldn't make that argument. I think they are different, because I feel they both kind of stole Dark Souls combat. But you could definitely make that argument and no one cared.
Yeah.
Now, and I feel like if this had been reversed, not that it was, if Genshin Impact was around and then Zelda came out, a more popular one, no one would care. It's just, to me, this is one of those weird examples of fanboys, tribalism, and just... And Nintendo fanboys are like, there's fanboys, but Nintendo, in my experience, fanboys are like next level.
The most diehard, yeah.
Dude, they are like so hardcore. PlayStation fans are getting up there now too. where like they hate Xbox. I'm like, I don't care, man. Good games are good games. I don't care what it's on.
Yeah, I feel like there is definitely a fanboy element with Zelda. I think a lot of people hold that particular franchise very, very close, and so people would feel like it was an affront to this thing that they've loved forever. But yeah, I do feel like if the chronology had been reversed, there wouldn't be any discussion about it, because Zelda is Zelda. Why would they care to rip off some other game, even if they clearly did? It wouldn't matter in the same way, because nobody has a connection to these characters in this new game.
A perfect example. I might mess up the game. Gears of War definitely gets credited with that modern cover system.
Mm-hmm.
There was a game, I want to say it was called like Switchback or something like that, that as far as I know is the people who created that cover system, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I loved it. I was so obsessed with it. And then like 4 years later, Gears of War comes out and everyone's like, oh, it's revolutionary. And I'm like, this literally is it like hugging the wall and peeking over thing that all games use now?
Yeah.
Like, it did that like on PS2, I want to say. You know, it was like way before Gears of War ever did it. But no one cared because it was a little unknown thing. That being said, it could have been parallel thinking. It could have been, man, that cover system's awesome. Let's make a game around that and make it bigger budget and better with aliens.
Yeah. And another little side thing, and we'll wrap it up. But you've heard of the genre Metroidvania games, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is a genre of side-scrolling action games that are being developed for Steam and for PSN and all these like just new versions of old school games, and they call them Metroidvania games, and there's no copyright infringement there. Those games were so influential, they set the standard, and now everybody else, like, they set out to, you remember that game Metroid? We want to do something kind of like that with a slight variation on it.
With a Castlevania twist.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's Metroidvanias for Castlevania and Metroid.
Yep.
You know,
anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I think that covers it all up.
We got our...
I think it was a lot more intense than our Epstein, and really more important.
Yeah, agreed. 100%. I think we've really done the Lord's work today. We've talked about aliens. We've talked about conspiracies. We've talked about politics. We've talked about gay orgies. And we have talked about video games. Yeah.
That's a pretty good day. I mean, gay orgies and video games is like the name of a mixtape, I think.
It's got me like already in the early stages of developing my own video game. It's a Florida Man orgy game.
Oh man, that sounds intense.
Yeah. It's not gonna sell.
The goal is to go in and steal his gun.
All right, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Take just a second to smash that little thumbs up button. I meant to do it at the top, but we want to let you guys know that we are available on all streaming services for your podcast listening needs, as well as video form on YouTube. I say streaming services. That's not really accurate.
Podcast services.
Yeah, podcasts. Yeah, podcast listening.
I wish
apps.
We were on Netflix, but
I got something in the works.
If you're watching this Netflix, come holler at us. I will totally sell out and change my politics to whatever you want it to be.
Fuck yeah, 100% echoed, because it's an echo. You see what I did there?
I got it.
All right, guys, stay up to date with all of our content by subscribing, but most importantly, until next time, and on behalf of both me and Caleb, be terrible.